Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of the 1997 comic book film, Spawn. Now, before I get into this review, I got a couple things I want to talk about. First off, I want to thank Dominic Rocco for sending me this Blu-ray. Thank you. I know it's been a while, but I'm getting around to it now, and definitely want to say thanks. This review would not be possible without Dominic's gift. I'm actually glad to have this on Blu-ray because there's certain shots, and there's actually some certain scenes in this that I like, and I actually didn't hate the film watching it again, so I thought it was a time waster, and I actually felt that it looked pretty good in HD, and there's some nice features on it, so yeah, thank you, Dominic. And I also want to mention my personal history with this film. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you all the details about my personal retrospective in accordance to Spawn. Now, Spawn is a character that I was a fan of as a kid. I had action figures. I used to read some of the comics. So I was really looking forward to the movie, and I really wanted to see it. But my mom really did not want me to see films that were rated PG-13, so that was a flat out no. But I managed to get my dad to take me to see it, and Spawn was one of the secrets that me and my dad kept from my mom for many years. The other one was, it gets lamer, folks. Like, you won't even believe it. Like, you're probably like, oh, come on, Spawn, yeah, it's not the best thing, but, you could have kept a lamer movie from your parents, a lamer film from your mom, you know. Yeah, and that lamer movie was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So both of these movies, interestingly enough, or not interesting at all, have some very dubious things in common. They both have absolutely terrible CGI in them. I would argue that Mortal Kombat Annihilation has worse CGI than Spawn, but that's not saying much because both have some really terrible CGI. But Spawn actually has some really great CGI for the time at points too. So Spawn gets a bad rap for being a film that has nothing but terrible dated CGI, but there's actually some CG in this by Industrial Light and Magic that was ahead of its time, and I actually think holds up quite well. And I will talk about that more in depth later in this video. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because whenever I think of Spawn and whenever I watch this movie, I always have that association with it. This is one of those films that was a dirty little secret that I saw, that I got my dad to see and take me to see against my, because despite what my mom was saying, I was being the renegade, I was being the, bad kid, being like, you don't tell me what to do, Mom, I'm gonna go see Spawn anyway. My dad's gonna take me to see Spawn because he's cool. My dad's gonna take me to see Mortal Kombat Annihilation because he's not lame like you are. He's not a total spaz like you are, Mom. It's just so, it's such a lame, a totally uncool secret to keep from your mom for all these years. To just be like, hey, yeah, I you know what? I saw Spawn, and I saw Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and I also saw Kazam. Yes, I did. I actually did see Kazam in the theater. I drug my dad to see that film in the theater, and I mean, if it wasn't bad enough, you got Spawn, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Kazam. I apologize. I apologize wholeheartedly from the bottom of my heart to my own father for dragging him to see those movies when I was a kid. But I was an equal opportunity offender when it comes to dragging my parents to see shitty films in 1997 because I also dragged my mom to go see Batman and Robin. So, this 1997 had some great films. It's actually an underrated year for films, but also had some really shitty movies. And for some reason, I saw a lot of them in the theater. So, but I just wanted to share that story because I think it's a fun story, and it's it just goes to show you sometimes when you think something's cool, when you're a kid, it really isn't that cool as an adult. because it's not really a story that is gonna be like epic after all those years. And it's not like it was some epic movie that I chose to see in '97, or even like an underrated gem. Like it's Spawn and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Those were my bad boy films that I saw. But anyway, Spawn is directed by Mark A.Z. Dippe. I like to call him Mark A.Z. Dipstick or Dipshit because this guy didn't really do that much before this, and he didn't do that much after this. And he's not really that best. He's really not that great of a director. After watching it again, I don't think his direction is as bad as I remember it being, but at best it's amateur. At best it's average. There's nothing about his direction that elevates it to the status of good. It's just there. And you can definitely see why he did not go on to do much else after this. Because it's not really a guy who is like your go-to guy. Yeah, let's go and grab this guy to direct our movie. Like, there's really not much to this guy. I mean, he worked on with special effects. He was a visual effects artist and an animator, but apparently it seems like he's directed a bunch of films. They say he's directed numerous films, but he worked on visual effects for a bunch of movies, which is cool. Oh, he directed Michael Jackson's Halloween recently. Oh, he did Frankenfish. Okay, he did Frankenfish after Spawn and a bunch of Garfield CGI movies, but yeah, he didn't do a lot of note. He didn't really do anything that was worthy of note after Spawn, and you could argue that Spawn wasn't even worthy of note. He also helped work on the story along with Alan B. McElroy, who wrote the screenplay, which is loosely adapted from the Image comic. Like, they weren't able to adapt everything. Like, for example, in the comic, a character named Chapel is the one that kills Al. But in the movie, they couldn't do that because Chapel was owned by Rob Liefeld. So, and Rob would not sign off the rights to the character. So they had to make up some new character named Priest to do it, Jessica Priest, to be the one that kills Al with a flamethrower. And of course, there were a few other creative differences and other things that were changed around because it's PG-13. But apparently this film was shot, I don't know if it was shot for an R, but it got an R rating from the MPAA. This film has a pretty interesting censorship history. Apparently, this director's cut, which is rated R, which I have no idea why it is, it says rated R for violence and crude humor. And this is one of the lamest and weakest R ratings for any director's cut you will ever see. And apparently, this is the version that was cut for theaters. Like, this is the version that was shot and edited and intended to go out in theaters. And then the MPA saw it and were like, this neck crack is too loud. There's too many dead people on the ground in this one scene. There's too many raunchy jokes. The clown shows his shit-stained underwear for a second too long. The demon who gets his head cut off in the end, there's a little bit too much of this gooey substance that comes out of his neck. There's way too many shots of Al Simmons burning on fire. It was just like, what the fuck, MPA? I mean, they really do live up to the name Motion Picture Association of Assholes. Maybe it's Motion Picture Association, Motion Picture Anal Assholes. It's more like it because they're fucking anal assholes over here with their censorship. Like, of all the neck crack is too loud. There's too many crude jokes. It's like, wow. I mean, I guess there's one scene where one kid gets hit in the face by his dad. I mean, yeah, I guess I can see why you could, want. But I mean, is that enough to really make it R? I mean, comparison to other films that got R ratings and like before this, it's like, this is a tame R rating. Like, there's some gunplay, and I guess they cut some gunplay. There's even like a longer little bit of a fight scene between Michael Jai White and some security guy in one of the beginning sequences. Apparently was edited down for the theatrical cut because the MPA is like, that's too violent. It's just, I mean, really? Like, it's just I don't get it. I don't understand. It's a total it's nonsense. I might post a link to the movie censorship website that details all the different changes that were made for the theatrical cut. Because this director's cut is just the version that was intended to be shown in theaters, but then the MPAA decided to say cut this, cut this, cut that, cut this, and then what you got was an absolute crippled film that it looks like it's just badly edited, and for good reason, because it was, because there's a lot of moments in this film that had to be cut out because the MPA is like, nope, can't have a PG-13 rating because that's just that's that's too crass, that's too violent, it's too darn loud. But anyway, yeah, I just definitely had to mention that. And apparently, there was a attempt to try to make a Spawn film before this one. Columbia Pictures tried to get the rights to Spawn around the time Spawn first came out on comic book shelves in 1992, but Tom McFarlane was like, no, I want creative control, and so he sold the rights to New Line for around $1 million so he could have the rights to merchandising and a few other things. So he sold the rights to New Line, but with a catch that he could have a cut of the box office gross, more creative control, and rights to the merchandise. Now, the film is based on the comic, like I said, but there are some differences for sure that they did for the PG-13 rating, which got an R, but then was cut for PG-13. The film stars Michael J. White in one of his first theatrical roles as Al Simmons slash Spawn. His performance is a mixed bag. You can tell that this is an early role for him. It's one of his first acting jobs. I don't think the director helped because he didn't really have that much experience either. So you have an inexperienced actor as your lead, and you have a director who kind of is still trying to figure things out as well. That's not a good combination. So he wasn't really there to get the most out of Michael J. White, but there were some moments where I thought he did a good job. I thought physically he definitely excelled in the role, underneath all the pounds of makeup and everything, in the suit, and so on and so forth. I definitely think the suit is one of the best things about the film, and in fact, K&B really did some great underrated work for this film in terms of the effects, in terms of the suit, the practical violator that you see in certain shots. I wish that they were able to work with a film that was intended to be R from the beginning. Like, this is a movie that was going for a hard R, so K&B could really go all out. I mean, that could have been really special. But yeah, I mean, but for what we have, it's still pretty impressive. Apparently, the film was greenlit with a budget of $20 million. But the visual effects were like crazy, so New Line had to like continually bump the budget up, and then it grew to like $40 million, and apparently a third of all of that budget was spent on effects. Now, some of it really didn't look that great. Definitely a lot of the stuff in hell, like that's pretty hellish looking, and not in a good way. Like, you want to burn that shit with fire, or send that shit to hell because it's a sin. It's a cinematic sin. It's a visual effects sin. But there were other shots, like there were a few shots of the Violator that I thought were really impressive. The shots where you had Spawn's cape, I thought looked really great. Some of the transition shots where you see Spawn's armor come back on or come off, I thought were done really well. And a few other transitions here and there, a few other elements of the clown and a few of the things he does and so on. So there were definitely some CGI sequences in this by Industrial Light and Magic and Company that I really did I thought were great. I thought those looked really good. But then the stuff in hell, no, that's really bad. I can't defend that shit. It's shit. It really is. It's crap. It's some really crappy CGI. But the film, going back to the cast, you have Michael J. White. Yeah, the physical stuff, he was fine. It's just performance-wise, a mixed bag in terms of I definitely feel Keith David, who does the voiceover work for the character of Al Simmons in Spawn in the HBO miniseries, the animated miniseries, he's a much better actor and he delivers a much better performance. But, you know, for a first-time actor, it could have been worse. It could have been Shaq. I mean, even at his worst in this, he's not Shaq bad. I mean, there were some moments where he said some lines that were pretty badass and said it pretty believably, and there were other times he was trying to be emotional and it didn't really work that well. But hey, you know, at least he gave it a good college try, so to speak. John Leguizamo is also in this as the Violator, and he violates my senses and he violates my ears with his annoying fucking shtick. I hate this character. I didn't like this character even when I was a kid. He's annoying. It's like the Pest, but if he gained like 50 pounds and was like a demon, it's just really. I like John Leguizamo, but this character fucking sucks. He's annoying. And he's not funny. He's crass to the point where it's just disgusting, and it's not like endearing in any way. Oh, look at here. Oh, look at my shit stained underwear. Oh, you gonna fork Wanda? I'm just like, oh, fuck that clown. This character is nowhere near that annoying in the comics or in the HBO miniseries, the animated series. So I don't know what they were thinking. Was this a part of the deal in the contract? They're like, Sony's like, but Sony, Columbia Pictures is the one that released the Pest, not New Line. So I can't blame New Line for. Is this some contract? It can't be that. It can't be some sign and deal thing. John Leguizamo's going to star in the Pest, and he's going to act like the Pest in Spawn. But no, that's not the case. I guess he maybe, I don't know. I don't know why he acts like this. It's just annoying and it's lame. And there's this disgusting shit, like images I never want to see, and I don't think anybody wants to see. John Leguizamo in a fat suit, dressed up like a cheerleader. Let's go Spawny! Let's go Spawn! You're like, oh, please, no. And you see like his fat rolls and shit. Like, it's just like, fuck. And then he eats like live maggots, and I gotta give John this, okay? You know what? He went all out for it. I'll give him that. It's still not what I call a performance that is for the ages or a performance that I liked watching, but I gotta give John Leguizamo credit for really going all out and like eating live maggots and shit, and getting in this fat suit, which he called it's like a sausage, like sticking a sausage inside of a condom. He's like, that's what the experience is like being in the fat suit. It's like a sausage stuffed inside a condom. So you know, I give John a lot of props for dealing with that, but no, the character sucked, the performance sucked, and no, thank you. Martin Sheen played the main villain, Jason Wynn. His performance was okay, I guess. He didn't have a lot to work with, and apparently he only took the role because he wanted to be in a comic book movie. He's like, I just wanted to do a comic book film. So I guess if any comic book role came to him at this point in time, he would have taken it. It could have been like the shittiest comic book movie ever. He'd be like, I'll take it. Theresa Randle played Wanda Blake Simmons. She's there. Nicol Williamson in his last film role before he decided to retire and eventually passed away. He plays Caligostro. I actually like Nicol Williamson in this. I thought he did a fine job, and I felt that he and Michael Jai White had some nice chemistry with one another. I actually would have liked to have seen them side by side more in the film. D.B. Sweeney's in this from The Cutting Edge as Terry Fitzgerald, a friend of Al's, who ends up marrying Al's wife Wanda after Al dies. You have Melinda Clarke, who plays Jessica Priest. You have Miko Hughes from New Nightmare as Zach, who's like this boy who kind of befriends Spawn. It's not really much of a character. The most memorable thing about this character is related to his father, who apparently likes to hit his son, and then Spawn's ready to beat his ass, and then the kid's like, no, he's my dad, and then the dad dies later. That's another thing that was cut out of the theatrical cut by the MPAA, because I remember the Motion Picture Association of assholes, or anal assholes, was like, oh, we can't have the dad die. It was, but you know, definitely Spawn lost its edge. If you see the PG-13 film, it has no edge to it. Almost absolutely no edge to it whatsoever, and that does not suit the character or the realm of Spawn at all. The director's cut brings back some of that edge, but it's still not as dark as it really should be. The HBO miniseries is a pitch perfect example of what a Spawn film should look like, and what the world should be like, what the realm should be like. And if you haven't checked that out yet, I highly recommend you do. Even if you weren't a fan of this, check out the HBO miniseries, because that's a much better representation of Spawn than this film is. Frank Welker, who you've heard do a bunch of different voices for a lot of different things. He plays the voice of Malbolgia, and he sounds like Dr. Claw. Really, he does. He just sounds like Dr. Claw in this. It's like he's not even trying to do anything different. It just sounds like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. So it's not really that intimidating. He's supposed to be like this intimidating devil, like he's the king of hell, and he sounds like Dr. Claw. Oh, I'm gonna get you, Gadget. You know, it's just like, oh, come on. and then the CGI is terrible, so that doesn't help it at all either. But yeah, and this was definitely lacking the emotion that comes with the character of Spawn. It comes with the character of Al Simmons. Al Simmons, in a lot of ways, you can compare him to Darkman. It's a similar thing where somebody's horribly disfigured and comes back to life and becomes a vigilante, and has to stay in the shadows and can never really have a normal life ever again. Can't really get back together and reunite with the woman that they love because they're horribly disfigured. And Al Simmons has an even worse. I mean, Darkman. I mean, Peyton's technically alive, but it's still living hell for him because he can't feel anything. He might as well be a corpse, really. Peyton might as well be the same as Al because he can't feel anything, and he might as well be the Walking Dead. But Al literally is the Walking Dead. And there's a great scene in the comic and in the miniseries where he actually sees his dead corpse face to face, and his dead corpse comes to life and tells him, you made a deal with the devil. This is why you're back. You made a deal with the devil for Wanda. You dumbass. So, but you don't get anything like that in this. So this script is absolutely missing so much of the spirit of Spawn. Now, the film also has a score by Graham Revell. It's not one of his best works. There are some moments where it's there, but it's not really that memorable. Most of the music is soundtrack music. Apparently, the band Iced Earth, who had done an album based entirely around Spawn comics, was asked to do a song for the soundtrack, but they declined because they're like, it's too much electro metal in it. And there are some songs in this I like. I like Skin Up, Pin Up, and I like a few other things, like Crystal Method did a song, and there's a Marilyn Manson song that I didn't mind on the soundtrack. But yeah, I mean, this does lack a really memorable score. I mean, you have Graham Revell, and it's not really. Sadly, they don't really do the most with him. I mean, in comparison to something like The Crow or some other scores that he's done, this really doesn't. It's like you might as well not even hired a composer, because the music just isn't really there for the most part. Definitely doesn't stay with you. It features cinematography by Guillermo del Toro, Guillermo Navarro. It's there at times. I would say some of the shots of Spawn with his cape and in front of, like, standing on top of a church in front of a cross are pretty well shot, but I don't even know if that's the cinematographer who's doing that. It could just be that's something that the effects guys shot. I mean, it could be like the best and most well shot sequences in this movie are all done by ILM. Because I mean, really, I can't really give the director a lot of the credit when the majority of those shots, a lot of the fluid of those shots, a lot of the flow of those shots is from the visual effects artists. It's edited by 3 people, which I am shocked. 3 people edited this. Which one of these editors decided to edit this movie with a unbelievable amount of transitions to the point where they're just obnoxious? Oh, a chain whips across the screen. The screen burns. Let's have a cross that flies in. It's just like, for fuck's sake, are you just... Was this like a challenge to put every single cheap transition from like Windows Movie Maker at the time into the movie? Like, it's one of those things. It's like, for fuck's sake, like it doesn't take a break. It's just constant. It's constantly throwing these awful transitions at you, and it hurts the film. Like, easily the worst thing about Spawn, if you ask me, is the editing by all 3 of these people. Like, they should know better. 3 people, Rick Shane, Michael N. Canu, and Todd Bush. Shame on you. Shame on all of you. Like, this film was okay in terms of the direction, but like the editing just makes everything look shitty because the editing is so awful. It's so egregious. It's some of the worst editing that I think I've seen in a film. Easily some of the worst editing, because it's just like, for fuck's sake, cut it out with the transitions. You're ruining the movie. It doesn't make it cool. It doesn't make it rad. It doesn't make it awesome. It makes it shitty, okay? Like, this film, you should show this movie to aspiring film makers and be like, this is what you should not do, okay? Don't fall in love with your transitions. Use them in moderation. Otherwise, you end up with this fucking garbage. You end up with Spawn, okay? You end up with this pile of spew that is Spawn when it comes to the editing. And apparently, this was produced by Tom McFarlane Entertainment and a company called Pull Your Pants Down Productions, or Pull Your Pants Down Films. Yes, this is an actual fucking production company. I'm not making this shit up. It's not a joke. It's real. Because if you watch this film again, or if you ever decide to watch this film again, wait till after the end credits are over, and there will be a production logo that shows up, and it's literally just a bunch of asses that fart, and it's like, Pull Your Pants Down Films, or Pull Your Pants Down Productions. I'm not making it up. Honestly, I want to know the story behind that. I want to know the story behind Pull Your Pants Down Productions. How did this come to be? What happened with this production company? Who came up with this idea and why? Are they still producing movies? Like, it's one of those things, like, I want to see the story behind that. Because it's so unbelievable. It's such a surreal thing. The movie's over, and then you see a bunch of cartoon asses fart, and then you're like, did I just fucking have an acid trip or some shit? Did the movie send some fucking mushrooms my way and down my esophagus and into my stomach, and now I'm hallucinating this shit? What the fuck is this? Did I take some peyote? Is this movie like cinematic peyote? Farting asses? What? I had enough of that already with the fucking annoying clown who was farting and shitting his drawers. I didn't really need to... Why do I need to see more farting? More farting asses. Such an immature, childish, fucking stupid way to end a movie with this fucking production company logo. I mean, it's unforgettable because you're just like, what? Like, you cannot believe what you saw. You're like, I cannot believe what I just fucking saw. Like, are you kidding me? Pull Your Pants Down Pictures? Fuck's sake. Apparently, it's a company formed by formal, they're certainly not formal, former Industrial Light and Magic artist Mark A.Z. Dippe. Oh, Dipshit helped produce it. Helped make made that company. Clint Goldman and Steve Spaz Williams. Wow. I know exactly where your heads were when you came up with that production company title. But anyway, yeah, that's the gist of the film in terms of like the production, and not really the production, but I mean the staff and the crew and all of that. When it comes to my overall opinion on the movie, I actually thought it was a time waster. I think part of it is definitely nostalgia. I have some nostalgic connections to this movie. I used to watch it quite a bit growing up on VHS. I did see it in the theater. Some of the action bits I actually don't mind, like the motorcycle chase near the end. I think the suit is fantastic. Apparently, I wasn't the only one because there were a bunch of thefts that happened on the set. Like multiple suits were stolen. And I I like Michael J. White in certain scenes. Other scenes, I don't think he's that great, especially when he's trying to show emotion. Is trying to be an emotional sequence, but when he's just supposed to be an angry hellspawn. I think he does a great job with that. I would like to see more martial arts with him, but there's certain sequences in this that are just fucking cool. I mean, like when he shows up in the banquet, he's got the cape and smashes through the skylight and he throws a wind around and starts shooting up the place. That's an awesome scene. The scene where he's got the cape and he's trying to escape from the cops, that's a cool scene. The scene where the Violator attacks Spawn in the alley, that's a cool scene. There's cool scenes in Spawn, but there's also a lot of shit. You got the annoying clown with his shitty underwear. You got the villain is lame. And no, but none of the villains are really that cool or really that intimidating at all. Like the clown's just annoying and not much of a match. Malboja is a fucking joke because it sounds like he's Dr. Claw and it's some really bad CGI. Violator, okay, there's a decent fight. I mean, but really, it does lack like, and Wynn's just, he's like a TV movie, like he's a villain that I'd see on some TV movie. Like I swear I saw that I could see that guy in the Nick Fury film with David Hasselhoff. Like it's there's really not a lot to that villain, and but there are some moments where it really is a spectacle. Like some of the visual effects actually do hold up well, but some of them don't. The practical effects by K&B I think are pretty impressive at times. Like I said, I thought Al and Calagostro, I thought they had decent chemistry, but they aren't on screen that much. The film definitely could have benefited from more action, less stupid jokes, and less fucking annoying clown scenes, and less transitions. uh, but I mean, despite its flaws, I can't lie and say I hated it. Like I said, I thought it was a time waster. I thought it was mediocre. It was average. It was so-so. Especially in comparison to shit like Steel. I mean, really. Like, this Steel is a million times worse than Spawn. I'm not going to defend this film. I'm not going to stand up on a soapbox and be like, it's underrated. It's great. It's a gem. No, it's not that great of a film. It's average at best. But, I definitely like it more than some people do, because I know there's a lot of people who don't like the film and think it's a piece of shit. And, hey, I'm fine with that. I mean, a good friend of mine thinks this sucks. So, that's cool with me. I don't mind it as a time waster. It's not like I love the film or I'm a big fan. I just don't mind. I think it's all right as a time waster. But it definitely pales in comparison to the HBO miniseries. And before I talk about before I give my final thoughts on it, I want to give you a little bit more trivia. Apparently, Tim Burton was one of the original choices to direct. I don't know how that film would have been. I don't think he's right for Spawn. I'm glad that he didn't get it. But Alex Proyas was originally signed on to direct it, but he did Dark City instead. Sorry, apparently I got a stutter apparently, because I can't believe some of this stuff. Tim Burton directing Spawn, I don't really see that. But yeah, I can believe that he went on to work on Dark City because it's a much better project and it suited him better, and that's a better film than Spawn. Now, apparently, yeah, this was the first film to feature an African American as the lead in a comic book film. Yes, Spawn was actually the first one. It predated Steel and the Meteor Man and Blank Man. They came out, but they weren't actually based on a comic book hero. Spawn was the first one, so it took that honor, and it cost about 40 million, and it only made 87.8 million. So it wasn't like a huge budget, but for the time, that's a pretty big budget for New Line, and it made an okay. It did, and you could argue it did make a profit if you count the merchandising sales, which were pretty good, and the soundtrack sold pretty well. It made a profit, but it didn't do spectacular, so it was a disappointment. I still don't understand why no one gave Michael J. White another chance in starring in another film, or at least being in a big supporting role after this in theaters, because it's not like the movie was a total bomb. It did all right. It could have done better, but it also could have done worse in the box office. Now, the film had rumored cast members in mind, some rumored actors, not cast members, because they weren't really a member of the cast yet. So they had some actors they had in mind to play Al Simmons, like Wesley Snipes, he's connected to almost everything. He was connected to Steel. He's connected to Spawn. Cuba Gooding Jr. I can't see that. Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg? That had to be like a joke. Snoop Dogg. Can you imagine Snoop Dogg as Spawn? I'm the for shizzle nizzle Spawn, yo. No, fuck that shit. Tony Todd. I like Tony Todd, but I don't think he's right for Spawn. Alan Payne, no. Denzel Washington, no. Samuel L. Jackson, really? I'm the motherfucking Spawn! Like, I can't, no. Ving Rhames, no. LL Cool J, Will Smith. Really, it's Wesley and Michael J. White, and they couldn't afford Wesley. Actually, Wesley did Blade instead, which was a good choice. So, Michael J. White did, they went with Michael J. White. Good choice. Out of all those choices there, I think he was the best pick, and he was the best one that was suited for the role of Al Simmons. It's just too bad that he didn't really have more acting roles under his belt by the time he got this role. Apparently, Richard Harris was also originally going to play Caligostro, but he pulled out of the project. Edward Norton was going to play Terry, but he dropped out to work on Rounders. And so that's really all I got for trivia there. I wanted to mention some of the stuff, though, because I thought some of the stuff was interesting, sort of the casting and stuff like that. But anyway, this is a much longer review than I thought a review of Spawn would be. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you haven't been bored out of your mind. And I don't really know what to say about the film, except if I were to rate it out of 5 stars, I'd give it 3 out of 5. There's some spectacular sequences, some cool stuff. Nice practical effects by Canby, some solid visual effects by ILM, but some not so solid visual effects, some nice soundtrack songs, average direction to amateur direction, really bad editing, some pacing problems because there is a kind of like, why do I care about what's going on thing when it comes to the film and its plot. But I mean, I've seen worse comic book films, and I've seen worse films in general than Spawn. It's especially from 1997, but yeah, it's like I said, it's a time waster. It's average. It's Spawn. Yeah, really. It's like Spawn. But anyway, I thank you for watching my review, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.